What's jamming, guys? It's Jamie. Today we are going to be making a life cast version of our faces. Now, I've seen a lot of people do this on YouTube, and I've always wanted to have my own life cast just so I could sculpt my own prosthetics on. They're very handy to get your actual face proportion, so when you're actually making a prosthetic, it fits perfectly. A lot of people use this technique in movies when they're creating masks for specific characters, or I'm blanking. Either way, lots of artists and things use them. They're very helpful and creative, and I've never had one. I wanted to find a cheap and really inexpensive way to do this, as well as being comfortable to do it on myself at home instead of having to go somewhere and have it professionally done. That being said, little precaution with this: if you're not comfortable with your eyes and eyes being completely covered by something, I would have someone next to you or someone to help you. I actually did this by myself. I told my parents I would be in my little studio. They didn't hear from me for a few hours. I was probably dead. A little dramatic. Alright guys, so for this life casting, what we are going to need is some plaster cloth. This you can pick up from either your local craft store, you can pick it up from Home Hardware. They have it, I believe, in Walmart. It's about $10 to $15 for a bag, but you get 2 giant rolls in the bag. And then you just want to cut them up into smaller strips. I have 3 different sizes. I have this size here. I guess these are about 3 inches. 3 to 4 inches long. This is my main one, so I cut up a bunch of these. I then have some long, thinner ones. This is just so I can get in like the crevice areas, get around the nose specifically, and then just in case I have even smaller ones. You really want to make sure your strips aren't too big, because then you're not going to be able to work fast enough to get in all the crevices and get the details of your face, which is the main point of this. You're then going to need a bowl of water. This is to dip the strips in, rinse out, so then you can apply it to your skin. You're going to need some Vaseline or petroleum jelly. This you're going to smear all over your face, as well as on after you've covered your hair, because you don't want the plaster to stick, and you basically don't want to wax your hair off. It's going to also make for very easy removal when the mold is done. You're then going to need some saran wrap or plastic wrap. This I am using instead of a bald cap, because again, we're trying to make this as cheap as possible. Alright guys, so make sure you completely pin your hair back. You are then going to make sure all your little baby hairs are tucked away. With the saran wrap, you're going to go around your head very tightly, as you can see like I'm doing here, making sure all my little baby hairs are tucked away and pressing it as tight as possible. You definitely want to make sure you don't get any of your hair so it's not waxed off. Next, you're going to make sure you grab your Vaseline and cover everything that you know the plaster wrap is going to touch. Make sure you do this in thick layers. One, it'll make the plaster easier to come off, and it will also make sure, again, you're not waxing off any hair. Don't forget the eyelashes. Next thing, you're going to go in and damp your plaster cloths. You're going to squeeze out any excess water and make sure you rub and press this down tightly. You want to make sure you go from the forehead up. I just find this the easiest way, and I kind of make my border of how far I want my my life cast to go when I apply the plaster. Alright guys, so you want to make sure that you always do the eyes last, just because you want to be able to see what you're doing. Once I get like I start from the outer and start making my way in. I use these smaller pieces to start going with the nose. Yes, make sure when you apply this that you can still breathe through your nose. Because we've already covered the mouth, we need to make sure we can get some oxygen. Now you're going to want to start going over one of your eyes. You're going to use your fingers to make sure that you smooth down all the crevices and areas. Make sure you go in by your eyelashes to follow the shape of your eye. Now, I tend to open both eyes at the same time, or if I try to open one eye, the other one still opens with it, and I really don't want to get plaster in it, so during this time, I just kind of fan it dry a little bit. And then I didn't even look to see how it was going. I just decided to go straight into the second eye. Now this is probably the part where you're gonna want someone with you to make sure that they'll help cover any holes. Again, if you're claustrophobic, this might start freaking you out a little bit, so definitely make sure you have someone there with you. Again, I'm very comfortable with this sort of thing, so I didn't need anyone with me. So I just, again, natural feel for my eyes and how I feel with everything. I did notice towards the end of this, after I took it off, that I did have a hole, but don't worry, we will be fixing that soon. As soon as you think everything is good to go and you've been over a few layers, it is time for a 10-minute dance party. Once everything feels dry, you're then going to feel with your fingers around the outside of the plaster and slowly start to peel this away from your face. Once you kind of get like your nose and your mouth out of it, kind of breathe into the mask so it's unsuction cups from your face. Because of the amount of the Vaseline you put on, it should seamlessly come off. Then you're going to look into the light and kind of fill in any holes, cracks that you see in the life cast. Make sure you fill this from the outside and not the inside, because again, you don't want to ruin the mold of what you have. Once you've left your mask for at least 20 minutes to make sure everything is completely dry by the time you fix up and patch any holes, you're then going to get a small-ish size box. I put a small blanket in mine just so the mask can actually fit quite good in it. You're then going to just double check, make sure that it fits perfectly in the box with a little bit of room just to make it easy. Get your bowl and your plaster. As you can see, mine's from Home Hardware. I put 3 scoops in this to start, and then I removed the 3 scoops and only put 2. And what I mean by scoops is 1 cup. Because I thought this was too much, but then I actually had to go back in because I put too much water. So my ratio isn't accurate or proper of what you should do. I think it's for every like 2 to 3 cups, it should be 1 cup of water. I kind of just eyeball it, kind of see how much I would need. I didn't waste any, so the 3 cups that I did, I think was a good amount. I stir it up a little bit just to get out some clumps. You can sift this through if you wanted to, but you don't have to. Pour in the water. As you can see right away, I definitely put too much in, but you stir it in. I added some extra, and then I'm using this sponge tool just to help remove any bubbles and bring them all up to the top. Then, I probably don't do this the proper way, but I just pour my mixture in. Make sure it's even, smooth out the top of it a little bit. Now, I've seen a lot of people put some in at a time, little by little. I find it turns out quite nice, even if I just pour it all in.
3 days later.
So, we can now grab our mold. It's been sitting in here for about 2 days. Now you can, depending on the type of plaster you have and the recommendations, you can leave it in there longer or shorter depending on what you need. I was just been busy the past 2 days, so I've let it sit, which means it's now rock hard. I just like to make sure you press everything. Everything does seem nice and hard, of course, except for our plaster. This is now the part where you can start removing the plaster. Again, this part is a little bit messy, so I would suggest don't wear anything that you don't mind getting white on, just when you tear it off. Doesn't matter how you tear it, no matter what, you're not going to be able to save the mold. So just start lightly peeling it away from the plaster. Okay, so that is all peeled away, and now you should be getting a rough idea of what your face mask is, or face mold life cast is going to look like. Now, as you can see, you might be able to see, I'll zoom in. It's really rough. You can see where the you can see like the indents of where the saran wrap was, or plastic wrap, as well as we still have some little plaster bits around. What I'm going to be doing now is taking my time, and with some tools I have, where did they go? Maybe I lose everything. My father has stolen all my metal bits and wooden chippy bits. Alright, so I just have these. These you can get at your local dollar store. You can get them from Michael's. Any Walmart craft section or sculpting section. You should be able to get these. I have different variations, and what I normally do is I start like kind of picking away and smoothing out any areas that I want to be smooth before I seal everything in. What I would recommend is to take time with this, because this is what you're going to want to make any prosthetics on, or any other reason as to why you wanted to create the face mask in the first place, or the life cast in the first place. So just really make sure you take the time, remove the plaster, get it smooth to how you want it, but remember, don't file it down too much, because then it will actually take away features of your natural face, which would defeat the purpose of the whole life cast. So I'm going to do that now, and we're just going to speed through the process. I've taken some time on this. I've removed plaster from the areas I didn't like. Now, this isn't a perfect face cast. As you can tell, this side is cut off slightly. When I was doing my molds or creating it with the plaster on my face, I didn't go far enough back. Fair enough. I know for next time I need to go back farther. If you see that the same thing, then you can always redo it. I personally, though, I don't mind this, because this is actually better eyes and lips than the first one that I did, which means I could still use this. If I'm doing a more side piece, then I will use my bigger one. But I definitely like how this one came out better. I've sanded it down enough to where I'm happy with it, because I really just wanted the general shape. If you really want to make sure it is smooth, there's no lumps, there's no holes, then you can continue to do it. I personally like this. Keep in mind now, when we put the coat over it to seal everything, it's going to help hide the bubbles, because you're going to do about 7 or 8 layers. Just quickly, you can see here that I'm using my Mod Podge. I've put a little amount into a smaller bowl, and I'm just generously applying this all over the mask. Just making sure that I get in all the smaller creases, up the nose, around the eyes, etc. I'm using a hair blow dryer just so I can help speed up the process a little bit, but you really want to make sure each layer is dry before you apply your new one. Again, making sure you apply about 7 layers. Alright guys, so this is my finished product. As you can see here, it is different, or it is smaller, I should say, than this one, but that is okay. I wanted this one to be actually a little bit smaller. Sometimes if I just want to work on the mouth, the nose, or the eyes, then this one will be perfect, but if I'm looking for something more of a forehead or more curved, it will be this one. I'm very happy with how it's come out. I hope yours comes out looking great. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can leave them down below in the comments section. I will try to get to whoever comments. I will try to speak with everyone depending on how this video goes for you. But yeah, give it a big thumbs up. I hope you enjoyed it. I will be trying to start a weekly posting, so stay tuned for that. Make sure you hit subscribe and the bell so you'll be notified. Have a great day, guys. Bye!